Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 194 of the Alamodome Audible podcast. This is your host, Jared Kalmus, joined by my loyal and determined co-host. I feel like I have to think of a different adjective, different adjective each time because I came with dashing last week, and I'm gonna try to keep that up. But Adrian Bermudez, how are you doing, sir?
What is good, man? I'm doing excellent. I'm doing great. I mean, it doesn't get any better, right? 4-2 undefeated in CUSA. No complaints over here, my boy. What about you?
Yeah, same. I think UTSA is technically at the top of the Conference USA standings right now by virtue of having a higher regular season win total,
right?
Including out of conference.
Right.
Some of the teams that are 2-0 as well.
That overall record, yeah.
I think North Texas is technically tied, for conference record right now, but UTSA's got more wins out of conference, so we got to take it. Should we just dive right into the Western Kentucky game because we're doing a double. We're doing Western Kentucky recap, FIU preview. We got a new quarterback commit.
Oh, that's right. That's right. There's a lot going on. Yeah, I think we got to get into it, man. Look, there's a Beastie Boys song, low and slow. That is the tempo. Yeah, that is exactly what I got. Because this one went for the under, Jared, despite everyone's 100-point predictions. And it was crazy because you said something about every time there's a game that is expected to be super high flying, 50 to 52 point total, that the defense will step up and it'll be a really, really low scoring game. And maybe it wasn't necessarily a huge defensive battle, but it was a very slow paced game. Yeah. And that the run game showed up and not even 60 points scored combined. 31-28, UTSA gets the win, 3-point victory over Western Kentucky in the Alamodome for the third time in a row, tic-tac-toe. And look, there was a 49-yard field goal from the special teams player of the week, Jared Sackett, and that proved to end up being the difference on the scoreboard, Jared. How about it? 31-28 Roadrunners will take it in another unbelievable heavyweight fight between these two teams.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You got to feel sick to your stomach if you're a Western Kentucky fan to get that close 3 times and you can't pull one of them out.
Man, bro. Rough. Yeah, that's got to be brutal.
I want to get a little bit deeper in that, but I think that you made a good point. The under hit, but it wasn't so much like the two defenses outshone the offense for either side. But it was more like a very deliberate strategy, I felt like, from Western Kentucky to slow the game down, to limit possessions. They were the first team that's really played UTSA's offense and a real 2-high, 3-high safety look, right? So they were pretty much like, if you're going to beat us, we're not going to let JT Clark and Frank Harrison, Zachary Franklin, and Josh Cephas beat us, even though they ended up beating, Western Kentucky with a Josh Cephas extension for a first down.
Sure.
But they were like, look, let's see if this run game can do anything, right? The run game excelled, man. They were able to get the job done. So I think you got to give credit to is Tyson Summers the Western Kentucky defensive coordinator?
Tyson, Okay.
No, because he was a former Georgia Southern head coach. Yeah. I think you got to give him credit. I think they had a good game plan, definitely put their team in a position to win, but Brendan Brady and the UTSA offensive line just answered the call.
That's right. Yeah. So Western Kentucky made UTSA beat them between the sticks more so. And you think that was UTSA having to adjust to Western Kentucky's defensive scheme rather than that also being a deliberate part of UTSA's strategy as well?
I hadn't really considered.
Was it more so, we were forced into that position, or was it also part of Jeff Traylor and Will Stein came out intentionally slowing down what the offense has been doing?
I don't know if they went in like game prep saying, we're going to ground and pound Western Kentucky to death. I think they came out, they saw the defensive alignment, and they were like, all right, bet. Like, okay, we can run on you guys.
We're going to match it. Okay. Yeah. And they made them beat them between the sticks. Okay.
But there were a lot of 4th down conversions from UTSA where they chose to go power run and they got stopped, I think, one time. But that was a pretty big vote of confidence in that offensive line and in Brendan Brady.
True that.
They have talked all year long that having a strong run game is part of the triangle of toughness. And in some cases, Coach Traylor sounded sick that he's not really had his team able to run the ball. You can tell it eats away at him, right? So I think that probably was a really good feeling for, Coach Stein, Coach Traylor, the rest of the offense and the team in general, that they were able to assert physical dominance in the run game. And win in a different fashion than we've seen them win in the other, 3 victories this year. So
well, and it's something we've pounded the table for too on those 4th down situations, 3rd and short situations. We want the power play. We don't want the cute schematic play. And so we finally saw that kind of hard nose.
Dude, if I see Zachary Franklin drop another 4th down conversion pass, I'm going to lose it.
That was brutal. Oh my gosh.
But much love to Zachary, man. I know it kills him.
Yeah. 2 for 3 on 4th down, and a tremendous difference maker for UTSA. But yeah, being able to get that push up front and the first 200-yard rushing game on the season.
Yep.
2nd week in a row that we have not handed the ball off, but that we have ran the ball 45 times, Jared. 45 attempts against Middle Tennessee, 45 attempts against Western Kentucky. And yeah, finally getting over that 200-yard mark, 213 on the day. 4.73 average yards per carry. Ground production, unlike we have seen all year long. And look, there's only one thing you point at, and that was the return. And unfortunately, also the subsequent departure of Mekhi Hart in that game. But Mekhi Hart returned for the first 3.5 quarters or so and completely blew our run game back up the way that it's supposed to be by just getting all of the push and the nasty all-conference offensive tackle menacing push that you expect to see from him in his graduate season, and then only to go out in the 4th quarter. It is freaking heartbreaking, Jared. It
hurts, man. It hurts. Not only did Mekhi bring the power to the run game, he was blowing guys off the edge, but you also saw that throwback screen to Dan Dishman where he had the finesse block where he was able to run 10, 15 yards downfield in full motion and then whip around and get in front of the defender to get between him and Dishman and get the block for a play that I swear to God was a 1st down. I don't know how they spotted that ball short.
For sure.
I went back and watched that play literally 10 times and I just do not understand how they spotted that ball.
But a high cerebral player that you could only get with that seniority and that experience of being in the offense and operating in it for 3-4 years.
So athletic, man.
Even if you had, Frankie go out there and be able to play with the same physicality in his very first game, that cerebral, that football IQ, that only comes with time, brother. And you saw that veteran experience out there from Mekhi Hart when you talk about those plays. Yeah.
And it's just God-given talent too. That's the thing.
100%. The nose.
Frankie can play his best game of his career, and he's still not going to be able to do a lot of things that Mekhi can do. Just because Mekhi's got the length, he's got the quickness, he's got the strength, he's the full package, right? Sounds like he's out for the year, man. It's awful. I hope that he's able to get a medical red shirt approved should he choose to go that route. I am sure his NFL draft prospects are pretty slim right now. So coming back and, hopefully getting some solid NIL money is probably a good call on his part, get his draft stock back up. But man, it was tough to watch because I'm a big offensive line nerd. I love that stuff. How many times do I turn to you in a game and I'm like, oh, so-and-so the offensive line's, beating up on them, right?
Just geeking off of it, dude.
I'm watching the trenches.
Right. You were geeking off Mekhi all game long. Yeah, absolutely. We're like, look at and it's it's so evident because we haven't had it. We haven't had it all season long. And so to see the polar difference, that the immediate impact being so different that he has, right? To come out there and to make that impact right away off that first snap. You're out for 5 weeks, really 6, and to come back in and to do it off bat is just so incredible, man. The dominance. And so I agree. I would love to see him get a medical red shirt. It's going to be a tough road, but yeah, if you guys hadn't heard the Jeff Traylor presser from after practice Monday morning, he said it very definitively. It's bad. It's not good. He's probably going to be out for the rest of the season in reference to Mekhi Hart's injury. So that was just brutal, man. Yeah, that was just brutal. And Dude, you know what, man? Big credit to JJ for asking some tough ass questions in that media availability today.
Sure.
Because he followed that question with, look, there has been so many injuries this season. Is it fair to blame it on something else? We know the schedule was very, very hard, but is there something else internal that needs to be looked at here? Dude, and Traylor owned that question.
Yeah. Yeah.
He said,
you can tell he's already having conversations, right?
Yes, sir. He had. He said, something we got to look at.
We're going to talk about tackling for sure. But contrast Traylor's response to that question from JJ,
bro,
to how Traylor responded to Greg Lucas' question the previous week about the tackling. And he like kind of gaslit UTSA fans of that.
The ownership
doesn't matter.
The ownership.
But he took full ownership of the injuries, dude. Something's up. He knows something's up, right?
And what is that too? Like part of that is like jumping in front of the bullet, taking the bullet for your players. Yeah. You cannot. Yeah. You can shoot the staff all you want, but you cannot shoot at the players. I'm going to jump in front of that bullet all day.
Yeah. And I promise you, if the two of us were, sitting somewhere with Jeff enjoying a sweet tea, he would probably have a lot to say about the tackling. But when you're in front of the media, right, and it's your players on the line, it's got to be different, right?
100%. But he owned that, and he said, "You know what, JJ? It's a fair question. It's a fair question."
And it's so easy to be like, oh, we had a tough schedule. We play physical. It's bad luck, whatever. There's a lot of excuses that you can use, right? He didn't use any of them. He said, we're looking at every avenue right now.
We're looking at every avenue because it is unusual, right? It is unusual.
It's uncanny.
Many.
Dude, the thing is, it goes back to, it's not just this year. Last year was really bad for injuries along the offensive line as well.
Right. So what are we doing there? What's going on? That's really, really interesting. That's really, really interesting.
Nutrition is something that's worth taking a look at.
Sure.
Heard from some folks that they're a little bit underwhelmed with the nutrition program at UTSA. UTSA doesn't have a nutritionist on staff, like not like a head of nutrition, right? They don't have that position listed on their staff directory. A lot of the big G5 powers do. FAU has one. SMU has one. Hell, I think Texas State has one, right? I started to do some research to see what that looks like. But man, my thing is, I think a lot of the linemen are too heavy. Heavy, right?
Yeah.
It can be a little jarring to watch the UTSA offensive line and just, look at them physically, and then you switch over to a P5 game on TV, and our guys are good. They block well, but they don't look like P5 linemen as far as their physical composition goes.
Right. It's the same weight on the scale, but the way that it's distributed, the way that the body is made up, it is lean muscle mass that you're going to see from those P5 hogs rather than just big old meat houses, and that's the plague. That's the plight of the big man is injuries, right? Dealing with all of the size and the power that you have and having your joints and your limbs and your body being able to handle that load and the pivots, changing directions, all of that weight coming down on top of a knee, on top of a hip, on top of an ankle. It takes its toll after so many years, so many snaps, man. Yeah.
Now, to add another layer of complexity to this, and maybe some optimism as well, there's a big difference in the guys that Frank Wilson recruited to UTSA on the offensive line. Again, we're just talking physical body composition here.
Sure. Yeah.
To the guys that Matt Maddox and Jeff Traylor have recruited to UTSA. The guys like Luke Lopez, Ronnie Garza, Ben Rios, DeAndre Marshall. You can't call those guys fat, right? Their bodies look a lot different. Now, there's some other guys I've recruited that probably don't fit that billing, but for the most part, the offensive linemen that this staff is recruiting look a lot different than the guys
leaner composition, right? Yeah.
And when you get to be, 22, 23, your metabolism's starting to change, right? So the body that you got at that age ain't changing too much, right? But when you're 18, 19, it's a little bit easier to work with, right? I certainly felt those effects myself when I was that age. I was like, dude, I could go hit Chachos right now. I played basketball earlier today. It's chill, dude. I'm fine. Nowadays, it's like, man.
Dude, my 30th birthday is next month, bro. Let's not even get into metabolism changes and body changes right now. Yeah, man. It's certainly something worth looking at. And it's really interesting. And I think you make a good point when you talk about the body composition and that lean muscle versus just body fat and extra weight, right? And
this is a big throwback. Do you remember when Jason Neal was at UTSA? He gained like 40 pounds of muscle in one off season and then tore his ACL like in the first half of the next year.
Yeah. It's just different to move with that extra weight, with that much muscle on you, man.
Especially when it's a quick adjustment, your body doesn't have time to.
Well, you see it across all sports, right? I mean, the plight of the center in the NBA, right? How many big men's careers get cut short just because there's too much weight coming down on those limbs? How about in the fight game? And you have guys changing weight divisions from one fight to the next, or bulking after the weigh-in 24 hours, they put on 15 more pounds. They can't swing their arms in the ring. So yeah, it happens, man. Your body changing that fast and then having to do that turnaround, you don't move the same as you did. Yeah. You just can't. So
hey, man. Really Audible podcast. Come for the football breakdown, stay for the metabolism talk.
Oh my gosh, dude. I'm telling
Speaking of which, I'm going to go off topic. I'm wearing an Almadome Audible t-shirt while we record this, and I feel like a total goober. Like, that's like if you're in a band and you wear your own band shirt on stage, you know, like I know no one's seeing the video of our Zoom call right now, but I still feel kind of goofy.
I am on the opposite side. I want to wear Almadome Audible shirt every recording. I want to wear Almadome Audible shirt every game day. Be like, yeah, what up? Some dude came up to me in the tailgate, which phenomenal tailgate vibes. Despite a lesser attended parking lot and game, but the vibes were incredible. And one guy, I saw the podcast Columbia, and he was like, "Hey man, do you just listen? Like you're just a fan, or are you involved?" I was like, "No, dude, I'm Adrian." He was like, "What's up, man?" And he gave me a big. It was super cool. It was the coolest thing ever. Yeah, shout out to that guy. On that note, we were talking about tough questions for JJ. JJ at the end of the interview also asked Coach Traylor about the attendance, and Traylor said, "We're grateful for those that came." JJ followed it up. He said, "Yeah, are you disappointed in the size?" Traylor re-emphasized, "We're grateful to those who came."
There's a lot to read in between the lines there. Dude, he didn't say no.
Dude, he was not happy whatsoever with San Antonio's showing at UTSA WKU, the championship game rematch. Yeah, he should feel some type of way about it. He shouldn't have to pound the damn table every single week begging for people to come into the stadium. He's getting tired of doing it.
Yeah. And man, there's so many layers to this, you know, but I feel like it's kind of on San Antonio. Like, can the marketing be better? Yeah. Can the prices be lower? Yeah.
Yes.
But there's over 1 million people in San Antonio, man. If you guys really care about the success of this program and you care about college football, there's no reason not to be in the Almadome. There's 30,000 people every week. 22,000 was a big disappointment for me. I think the crowd that was there was very loud. They had an impact on the game. There's some negatives too. We'll get to in a little bit. But to see Texas State outdraw UTSA was shocking, unacceptable. And I think it also throws out a lot of the excuses that you can use to write off the attendance for UTSA, because Texas State's operating in the same environment. You know, they are also in between the Red River Shootout in the morning for Texas fans and A&M versus Alabama in the evening for Aggie fans. They still found a way to get 25K to the stadium, right? I know App State's a little bit more of a marquee name nowadays than Western Kentucky is, even though both are really strong, you know, G5 powers. But
yeah, but they got people to show up for that game.
For a 2-win team. You know,
for a 2-win team. And you know what? And that team showed up for the audience that showed up too. And they gave them a show and they got the dub. Yeah, hell yeah. And so unbelievable. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's on San Antonio because the Red River rivalry was over at 2:00, right? You could get down there. Hell, you could have watched the end of it. Hell, it was 6 touchdowns to 0 touchdowns. You didn't have to watch the rest of the damn game. You could have left at halftime, gone to the Alamo Dome at halftime. What?
You could have drove from Dallas to San Antonio and made it a kickoff, bro.
What are you talking
Get out of here, man.
What are you talking about, bro? And so he has every.
Here's my thing, dude. It's gonna be the same damn people that didn't show up to the game, right? That they don't buy season tickets, right? They don't donate to NIL. They don't donate to UTSA. And they're going to be the same ones crying and, when Traylor leaves for another job.
Right.
It's your fault. It is your responsibility to support this program when times are good, when times are bad, but especially when times are excellent. What are you guys doing?
Oh, my.
Right. And you know the people on Twitter and on the media that are going to be talking down to UTSA fans when it's people like them that didn't do their part, and they're going to blame the rest of the fan base, right? When they are responsible for this poor attendance. Man, it really gets me fired up, dude.
It does, dude. And you said something in there that I didn't even want to go to, but when he answered that question, dude, like the first thing on my mind is like, he's upset with us. This is the first strike. We can't do this. San Antonio, we had to be better. We're going to lose it. We're going to lose it if we do it. So, yeah, man, I mean, I felt it. He was not happy. He was not happy with the fan base.
That's the crazy part to me is like, I feel like UTSA's resolved and addressed some of the harder challenges, like as a fan base and as an institution, as a football program.
As a program, man. Yeah.
But you would think winning, what is it now? I guess leading into this game, they had like 14 wins over the last, I think 15 wins over the last 17 games or 18 games. I don't know. I'm not doing the full math right now, but dude, there is no reason to not fill the dome. I don't care who's playing on TV, man, at least 25K. It's got to happen. It's easy.
UTSA with the 31-28 victory over WKU, UTSA is now 23-9 overall and 14-3 in Conference USA games under Coach Jeff Traylor.
It's a fun, exciting brand of football. Hispanic heritage stuff was super lit. If you weren't in the stadium, you missed out, man.
Super lit. Oh my God.
If they keep it up, Hispanic heritage is a must-attend game every year.
100%. 100%. Great, phenomenal job. Such a good freaking job, man. Wow. Incredible with the mariachis, great T-shirts, great, everything great.
And Andrew and I we can be critical of the game day experience at UTSA. I think compared to most schools, it's amazing, right? There's some areas where UTSA, I think, are kind of dropping the ball a little bit or could do better. But it's a fun time going to the Dome, right? You get to see some really, really dang good football. It's a loud, fun environment.
And the argument,
I don't know what more people want.
and the argument that UTSA still leads CUSA attendance numbers is irrelevant at this point because we're leaving CUSA. We're going to the American Conference. So to lead the CUSA in attendance numbers, it's bogus at this point. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. What matters is people supporting a good winning football team and being one of the best attended G5 teams in the country because it's one of the best playing G5 teams in the country, right? I mean, should the attendance match that in the sixth largest city in the nation?
I was watching a little bit of the Boise State Fresno State game late Saturday night. Boise's had their worst season since I was in high school, I think. Mm-hmm. And Fresno has one win this year, and they had a really good crowd in Albertson Stadium. And I was thinking to myself, that's how Boise stays Boise, right? Even when they have a really bad year, they probably need to fire their coach, right? Their quarterback quit on the team midseason. The city of Boise and their alumni base continue to show up, right? And that makes a big difference. It really does. And I remember watching that and thinking, I don't know if UTSA fan base is going to stick around through a season in the past season like Boise has had and continue to have. That to me was another reminder of how far we still have to go. Totally recognizing and appreciating the progress that we've made so far, but it's got to be better. It's going to be better.
It's hard. It's a hard one to swallow. Yeah. And is it a generational thing? Maybe, but dude, it's tough. It's tough to see.
I'm not blaming anyone other than like the city, San Antonio sports fans and the alumni. Student section was great, although they did leave early. I think they were very drunk. I will say I did not think the media did this game justice. Like I didn't hear any hype about it be a championship rematch at all.
None whatsoever. None whatsoever.
It was weird.
In fact, when I saw people complaining about the attendance numbers on Twitter, I saw takes that were like, well, it is the third time we played the same team. I'm like, bro, it's the championship rematch. What are you talking about? That's the most bogus take I've ever heard. No, not at all. I think you're right, Jared, that it wasn't pushed, it wasn't campaigned, it wasn't promoted as this big deal of championship rematch, the third time these teams were facing each other, the back and forth, the rivalry. I mean, where is the montage of all the big plays that have occurred over the past two contests last year? And talking about you need to be in the Dome, get your tickets for the Dome. Yeah, it's not being promoted very well. And it's hard to buy into something that's not being pushed to you.
Sounds like a freaking, I'm starting to hate this podcast episode. It sounds like a 2017 podcast. Yeah. We're talking about attendance for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
We don't want to do this, people. You're making us do this.
You're making us
obviously not our listeners. Our listeners are showing up to games, but
it's gotta be better. It's gotta be better.
Yeah.
And so
let's get back to football.
We would
I have a question for you. I want to get your take. I'll provide mine. Why do you think UTSA is 3-0 against Western Kentucky over the past 3 games when all 3 games have been pretty dang close? What is the ingredient that UTSA has that Western Kentucky doesn't have?
Man, the first thing I want to say is chemistry, familiarity, and
it helps. Yep.
And I guess Bailey Zappi and company, they've been playing together for several seasons, even though one of them was at WKU. They had still been playing for several seasons before that. So I don't know if that answer is entirely true now that I think about it. But I do think that this team has played together for so long that they're able to handle those big pressure moments so well because of their familiarity with one another. And because they've been in that situation so many times too. I don't know how many one possession contests Western Kentucky has been in outside of their games against UTSA, but UTSA has had so much damn practice in one possession competitions. It's every single week we are in one possession contest. And so maybe it's not the familiarity with your teammates more so than it is the familiarity with that situation, with that one possession, second half, fourth quarter situation. We're so used to being in that I don't think there's anyone that is uncomfortable when UTSA is down going into the final drive or two of the game, going in the last 5 minutes of the game, or if we've got a small lead we're trying to hold on to, there's like a security that feels really, really present. Like, I think I may have said it to you before, but even whenever, we were marching downfield against UAB and there were 7 seconds left, like there was a very calm presence about me. Like I felt good about the team. So I don't know. I'm going to say it's familiarity with those extremely clutch back and forth games.
Yeah, that's a good point. I have 2 things to throw in the ring as well. First off, you mentioned 1-score games at Western Kentucky. Shout out to Ross Shercliffe on Twitter. He tweeted that Heldon has 0 wins in his last 7 1-score games. And then obviously you contrast out with Riverboat Gambler Jeff Traylor's record in 1-score games.
Mm-hmm.
Coaching's a big difference. Huge difference. Retention of staff is a big difference too. Western Kentucky lost a lot of their coaches, and our boy Ben Arbuckle probably didn't call the best game. They had some bad play calls, I think.
Definitely so.
I think Traylor showing the aggression to go for it on 4th down with bad field position and showing trust and faith in his players forces Ty Helton to do a really stupid onside kick.
It's so stupid. Didn't work. 12 minutes in a 1-possession game.
Yeah.
12. I mean, it's a whole 4th quarter, bro.
Because when you do that, you're telling your defense, I don't trust you to get a stop.
And it's not like UTSA was doing whatever they wanted against Western Kentucky's defense.
Yeah, I mean, the defense was hanging in there, right?
Hell yeah, they were.
Other thing I'll say as well, I think UTSA's depth's a lot better than Western Kentucky. Sure. Western Kentucky's got some really good playmakers. They reloaded really well this year, but UTSA was down to 6 defensive linemen, and Western Kentucky still did not feel comfortable sitting in the pocket.
Sure.
I know that like UTSA didn't really pressure Austin Reed that much. That I don't think they had any sacks. They had
0
one
sacks.
The Trumaine Bell had the one that got counted as a tackle for loss because Reed kind of tucked it and ran forward.
Sure.
But it was very clear that the Hilltoppers didn't feel comfortable just running play action and dumping it downfield, right? And that's with a lot of starters and starter level defensive linemen being out. A lot of stops that UTSA got. You look out there, you've got 2 backup linebackers on the field, you got backup safety on the field, you got a redshirt freshman at defensive end, right? So I think that's a pretty big difference as well. It's like UTSA's recruiting success relative to Western Kentucky.
Depth, yeah.
And their ability to develop players as well, right? Like we have talked a little bit about part of the reason why UTSA's in a lot of one-score games and they struggle to really put their boot on a team's throat and choke the life out of them is because Jeff Traylor chooses to play a lot of players, right? It keeps guys engaged and develops them as players. And you see that pay off in a game like last week where UTSA had a ton of injuries and they still looked really dang good. A lot of guys playing their first meaningful minutes of the full season and were still out there making plays and being competitive, right?
Right.
So I think those are, I guess that still goes back to coaching, right? But those are 2 things that have kind of stood out to me because I've kind of been thinking about that question in my head ever since Saturday night. Right?
I think you've got a big point when you talk about the aggression, the ballsiness of Jeff Traylor as a coach, right? I mean, they and ballsiness is specific, right? Because you've got to be smart with your aggression. We talk about the onside kick. You could say that was ballsy, but it was stupid and it didn't work. And Western Kentucky, was it ballsy? Sure, but it didn't make sense in the time that it was pulled. Jeff Traylor is very calculated with his aggressive play calls, right? And he does it at the right time. He knows when to do it. Yeah. And so there's a difference whenever you talk about that ballsiness, that aggression in your play calling and in your coaching. We certainly have more horses, so I like you pointing that out. But I think what's that? Also,
Frank Harris is their daddy.
Yes, I wanted to say Frank Harris is really the difference, right? I mean, what else could it possibly be? You know, the guy's unbelievable. The guy is just a monster. You know, and
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry.
Well, I was gonna say even whenever he's like tasked with not having to do as much, because this was the first game of the year where Frank Harris didn't have to have the volume of passing that he's had to in the past, and his impact wasn't any less than it always is. Whether he's throwing the ball 45 times or 35 times, his impact is just as heavy and strong, no matter what. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's funny if you think back to Frank's redshirt sophomore season. I guess it was his first full season as a starter. He was an excellent game manager type quarterback, and then he kind of developed into a downfield dual threat, fantastic quarterback that he is today. But I kind of think last week we saw him kind of by nature of the defense that Western Kentucky was running, kind of have to go back to that role of being a game manager quarterback. And he did it perfectly well.
Perfectly. Absolutely perfectly. Yeah. I mean, no mistakes from Frank. Zero.
Now, follow-on question on that topic, though. We've had 3 amazing football games against Western Kentucky in the past, well, not now, but at the time, 365 days, 364 to be exact. Are you going to miss playing the Hilltoppers? Would you want to schedule them out of conference?
No.
Yeah.
No, it was fun.
Yeah.
That's it. We have gained everything there is to gain in playing Western Kentucky. It was a great sequence. We kicked their ass 3 times. There's nothing left to prove. And look, I don't feel, and I know we were talking about there's bad blood when you have this sequence with people, and maybe there's a little bit of rivalry, not real rivalry kind of, but to me, emotionally, I don't feel any different about Western Kentucky than I did 367 days ago.
I feel that for sure. I will miss seeing Matt from the Towel Rack predict Western Kentucky to beat UTSA by 35 points and just be incredibly freaking wrong every time and still come back the next game and do it again. I'm sure Western Kentucky runs the table and UTSA take care of business and we meet again in the Alamo Dome for the 4th time, that he will continue to pick Western Kentucky to win by 20 to 30 points.
Unbelievable, man.
So I will miss that part of it, but don't worry. There will be homers in the AAC. I can promise everyone that.
Yeah, no, I saw the tweets from Western Kentucky fans that were, if this happened in this play and then this other play happened this way and then this red zone possession goes differently, we beat them by 40 points.
Did you, dude? Did you see? I don't know. I don't know if people are really following the AAC just yet because we're not in there. But I've been following USF like really closely. Like I'm kind of Twitter buds, but it was some people that cover the program.
Last week's press conference after their loss.
Dude, I mean, like, of course, it's very natural as a coach and a sports fan to be like, oh, if this one thing didn't happen, we would have won, right? Dude, Jeff Scott was in full Frank Wilson mode. He like listed out like 8 plays. He's like, if he changed the outcome of these 8 plays, we probably would have came out ahead today. What?
Dude, it was wild. It was wild. And that's what I was thinking when I was reading some WKU tweets on Sunday and Monday, man, because there were some of them that kind of looked like that. But yeah, look, and they continue to be unbelievable back and forth contests, right? I mean, the WKU outthrows UTSA by 100 yards. UTSA outrushes WKU by 105, right? I think they were 6 for 13 on third down. We were 6 for 14 on third down. They're 1 for 4 on fourth. We're 2 for 3 on fourth. Like it is the difference of a couple of yards and a couple of plays every single time that we play this team.
Yeah, a couple of coaching decisions too, right?
4 seconds of possession difference. Yeah, and a couple of coaching decisions, no doubt.
Yeah.
But got off to a hot start, man. 7-7. You already knew it was going to be a back and forth contest.
Bro, that opening offensive drive was so eeasy. I was like, talk about a drop at 50 burger on these guys with ease.
It felt like that we walked down the field.
Oh yeah.
We walked down the field. But that's not to say that Western Kentucky's first touchdown was relatively difficult either. I mean, they moved it right downfield to answer right away on one less play than we did, actually. Mm-hmm. And, we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, but I think we need to get back into it. We spent some time talking about the offense, but back to the defense, Jared. Back to the UTSA defense. 0 sacks for UTSA defense. We only had 1 sack against Middle Tennessee, 1 sack against Texas Southern, 1 sack against Army. This is a team that came out against U of H in the season opener and sacked U of H 4 times, Jared.
Yeah, probably the most mobile quarterback UTSA is going to see all year too in Clayton Tune.
So we have exactly that. And one of the better offensive lines. And so we have 4 sacks in the game, in the season opener. And then in the next 5 games combined, we have 3 total.
Yep.
The tackles for loss number is just as bad. It's decreasing. It's trending downwards. We had 2 tackles for loss against Western Kentucky, 4 against Middle Tennessee, 9 against Texas Southern. Every week it's getting less. And
not a lot of tackles for loss, but there is a lot of contact before the line of scrimmage.
There is a lot of pressure being put into the backfield. There's a lot of contact.
Sorry, I was making a tackling joke. I don't know if you.
No, I totally caught it. I totally caught it because this is the second week in a row that coach has said, and I quote, second week in a row, he said, we're doing a great job of getting back there.
Yeah.
They're just not bringing them down.
Yeah.
And the contact's being made, Jared.
Yeah, so that's a really interesting point. I mean, coming into the season, I might have said this on our season preview podcast. I'm not sure, but I said that I kind of felt like UTSA is going to still get a pretty good amount of pressure, but they're not going to be able to finish plays.
Sure.
Because when you had a bunch of super seniors on defense last year, it was guys that were kind of used to being in those situations. They had the right technique. They didn't get too excited. It's like an opportunity was in front of them. When you're a younger defense, like UTSA's best pass rusher this season has been a redshirt sophomore, Trey Moore. Mm-hmm. Right. And like, not to say that he's doing a bad job or anything. And then you got like a redshirt sophomore, Jamori Robinson right behind him. It was like your second, pass rushing specialist. So I think like that, as well as, some of the youth we see elsewhere in the defense is leading to some missed opportunities to bring down quarterbacks on the line of scrimmage or to finish tackle for losses, whatever. But I also think UTSA has played really good quarterbacks this year. And I think if Austin Reed wouldn't have been playing for Western Kentucky yesterday, UTSA probably would have had 3 or 4 sacks. Because I was like sitting in the stands, I was really disappointed in the pass rush. I was like, man, we were all over Middle Tennessee last week. Like, what's the deal? Like, Troy got a lot of pressure on Western Kentucky. But then I went and watched the film and I was like, dang, like they're getting the ball out quick, dude. They like were not sitting back there at all. And there were a lot of plays where the defense was just about to get close enough to read to call it a pressure, but he just got rid of it, dude. So I do feel like the pass rush, the defensive line did have a pretty big impact on the game, even though the stat sheet doesn't show it, because it changed the play calling for Western Kentucky and it prevented them from even attempting any downfield passes. I mean, like, can you think of many throws more than 20 yards they had?
Sure. Yeah, no, there wasn't a lot.
There weren't a lot.
There wasn't a lot.
Yeah.
They're actually throwing in between the chains a lot more so than they do.
Yeah.
But
so, coming down the stretch here, and sorry, again, I cut you off, my bad. But again, coming down the stretch of conference play, there are not many quarterbacks left that are as good as Austin Reed, as Hudson Card, as Clayton Tune, right?
Well,
and I think that's a big reason why they got so many sacks and tackled for losses against Middle Tennessee, because Chase Cunningham is good, but he's not as good as those guys.
No. And I think you're right that Western Kentucky deserves credit here.
Yeah.
Because not even just looking at that, but their ability to make plays whenever they need to was just better than what Middle Tennessee could. Middle Tennessee didn't score a single touchdown in the red zone last week. WKU went 3 for 3 in the red zone.
Yeah, they were good. They're a good team. So
you do have to give some credit there. So yes. But the fact of the matter is it's been an issue consistently throughout the year so far. The pass rush not happening. The sack's not happening in the backfield. Pass rush is happening. And then the turnover is not happening, right?
The turnovers is the big one. I think that's the biggest difference between last year's defense and this one. I haven't counted up the turnover count, projected turnover total for this year's team, but I do feel like statistically, the number of turnovers is way lower for this defense than last year.
Yeah, and Traylor talked about it a little bit, that they tend to happen in spurts, that last year the team started the season with getting a whole bunch of turnovers week in and week out. But then towards the back half of the season, that actually sort of fluttered out. They weren't really getting turnovers every week. Yeah. And it's hopeful that it'll be the opposite this season, but it's still remaining just to be hopeful.
I think there were 4 passes that could have been picked off against Western Kentucky.
There were
one. Austin really threw at Chase Davis for some reason, like hit him in the chest with a pass, defensive lineman. That's pretty weird. Can't really expect him to catch that one. But there were 3 that went into the secondary that I think 2 of them were pretty dang catchable. I think Chapman dropped 1 and Wisdom dropped 1. There was another one. I think Chapman could have made a really crazy play to pick it off. But man, with that many opportunities, you got to grab one of them things.
Yeah.
I think one of Chapman's, I don't think he intentionally dropped it, but intentionally dropping it would have been the right play because the field position was better on a 4th down conversion, right?
Yeah.
So let's just give him the benefit of the doubt on that one, that he recognized that, and
Sure. But I will say you got to give Western Kentucky some credit, but I also think that if the defense is able to clamp down just a little bit harder, it's probably a 2-possession win for UTSA, if not 3.
I think so. I kind of caught some flack from some friends because I said that I thought the defense played pretty well overall. I still think so.
I still think so. Look, it's still improving. I think the tackling, albeit sure there were missed tackles, but it was better than it was against Middle Tennessee.
It was better than it was against Middle Tennessee, Texas Southern, and Texas.
Right. Yeah.
So it's the best we've seen in 4 weeks.
Yes.
I'll take it.
Better. It's improving. It's tangible. It was a tangible improvement.
Still a lot of missed tackles, but it was just normal bad, not cataclysmically bad.
Right. Both can be true. It can be bad and also an improvement from the last couple of weeks. So both can be true. But yeah, I do still think that has sort of been the Achilles heel, fatal flaw for this team. We're blowing guys. I think offensively we were way better than Western Kentucky's offense, right? But defensively, Western Kentucky's offense was able to get one over on our defense, and that's why they hung in that game closer than it should have been, in my opinion. Yeah. Maybe not a whole lot, but a little bit.
Yeah, there was a period of time, I think in the 3rd quarter, it really felt like UTSA could have raced away with that game and put it out of reach pretty early. Just didn't happen.
Yes. Yeah. And so I think that talent difference was evident because of what we saw in that 1st quarter. I mean, is this the play of the game, Jared? Kyle Wakefield falling on top of the onside kick, not even taking a step downfield, just laser focused, eyes on the ball, committed. And we've talked about the kickoff coverage being a little suspect on this team in the last couple of weeks. Well, let me tell you someone who is committed to staying home. That is Kyle Wakefield, my boy. Discipline, man. Discipline. Fell right on top of it. Didn't even let the ball go the whole 10 yards, my man. Just a thing of beauty.
People don't realize it. Kyle Wakefield's a veteran on this team. I know he doesn't play a ton because he's a walk-on. He's a redshirt senior. He's been in the program for a long time.
Baby.
Yeah, so that was great. What a play from him, man. Just incredible discipline. I think that probably was the play of the game as far as, like they had those stats like win expectancy, right? Like after this play, did it increase or decrease your chance of winning the game? Sure. I feel like that onside recovery had to probably be the biggest percentage change in win expectancy.
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe.
I think it's fair.
I did see that his mom posted a video of her like watching the ESPN Plus broadcast. I was like,
the whole breakdown
that she wasn't there.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
When your son is a walk-on, you kind of got to pick and choose what games you want to go to because, like, they're probably not going to play a whole lot. Kyle does play on special teams pretty often. But I was like, man, I wish you could have been there for that. I'm sure it would have been a very special moment.
Yeah, man, that was awesome.
Yep.
That was great.
He'll remember that one forever for sure.
It was a big one.
Yep.
Anything else on the field that you wanted to hit on?
I like the way you phrase that because what I want to hit on to end it. That's funny. No, I want to talk about offensive line health, but we can talk about that in the FI preview. I think it might be a better conversation for that.
Ooh, yeah. Good call.
Yeah.
So we talked about how poor the attendance was, but even despite how little fans were there, they still made their presence very much known, Jared. Some of it was through volume during defensive stands. Some of it was through volume during injury timeouts at the absolute worst freaking time of the game. We really showed our ignorance in the Alamo Dome as a fan base. You had people doing the damn wave with players down.
It was gross.
Injury.
It was gross. I want to reiterate, if anyone's listening to this podcast that wasn't at the game, this was not UTSA fans like joyfully cheering an injury to a Western Kentucky player because they were doing the same thing when UTSA guys got hurt. This is 100% fan ignorance, not knowing football, acting like you're at a Spurs game. It was really gross. It made me feel really bad.
Yeah.
Really, really bad. Don't do the wave ever. The wave's stupid. Don't do it when we're on offense for sure. But for God's sake, don't do the wave when someone's hurt. Dude, like, if you've never been down on the field in a situation like that, you have no idea what that feeling is, man. It's a scary, scary place to be, thinking that your career might be over, right? And, a lot of these guys, dude, that like the rest of their lives are riding on their football performance, right?
Yeah.
Whether they go to the league and they provide for their family or not, dude. And when they're down there and they're, the cart's coming out and you see some jackass with a Modelo trying to start the wave, that's so disrespectful. It's gross. If you see people doing that in the Alamo Dome, dude, please yell at them, get them to stop. I did see a lot of people trying to get people to stop cheering and yelling and doing the wave during the injury timeouts. I did recognize that and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But we need more people to step up. And I mean, you got to keep in mind, like, we're still a really new fan base of college football. Like, people like us and a lot of our listeners have been doing this for 12 years now, but a lot of people just jumped on the bandwagon the last year. Right. And they don't know what they're doing. Right. And they probably have good intentions, like, oh yeah, let's support the team, rah, rah, whatever. But there's just certain things you got to learn, you got to respect, and we need to be better. We need to do better.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you mentioned it. It happened on both sides of the ball. It was happening during Western Kentucky injuries. It was happening during UTSA injuries. It was very clearly a disregard for what was happening on the field, just out of sheer ignorance, didn't know any better. Right. And it's tough, man, because this was it was like a black eye for the UTSA fan base as a whole. When you think about how many people showed up to the Alamo Dome for the championship game rematch and potential preview of the next championship game. And then you couple that low attendance with just despicable behavior in the audience, man. And it was truly a black eye, I think, for UTSA fan base. And, you know, I'm glad that there wasn't this enormous consensus of opposing teams, fans, traveling fans, away fans, because it really would have looked piss poor awful if you would have had 10,000 Western Kentucky fans there, or if we would have behaved like that, say, whenever U of H was in town, right? And you were making this impression to another school, and golly, you know, it kind of happened behind closed doors. It was just UTSA people in there, but it's got to improve. It's got to be better. But, you know, I think you make a good point. We're so young, and a lot of people,
even to your point, even if it was a nationally broadcast game, right? Because those ESPN cameras are going to pick up the crowd noise, and you're going to see that stuff going on in the background. And that would be ugly, dude. It just takes one viral moment for that stuff to spread on social media. And then UTSA fans are going to have,
oh, God forbid, the commentator says one thing about it. Well, fans are doing the wave now. Well, fans making a little noise. I don't think they know what's going on. Like that's it. That clip, that soundbite. Yeah, if that game's on ESPN2, if that game's on CBS Sports, yeah, man, that absolutely can go viral, and it can be ugly. It can be really, really ugly. Look at all the UTSA fans doing the wave. Western Kentucky cart getting wheeled out here. Yeah, no good, man.
That was gross. No good. That was gross.
We got a lot to learn.
We do. We have these moments that bring us back to earth from time to time. And last week was a bit of humble pie, I think.
We're young, man.
Where we are as a fan base and as a program, right? It's funny to say that after we beat the conference runner up, and now we're kind of back in the driver's seat to host another conference championship game, right? Assuming the rest of the season goes well. But there's still off-field stuff that needs to get cleaned up, right?
We're gonna write a letter. We're gonna write a letter to Trailer and apologize as a fan base. And we're gonna send it out and get everyone's signature on it. So,
dude, I will say though, I did notice that Western Kentucky players didn't take a knee when UTSA guys were hurt. I don't know, is that old school of me to expect that?
Oh, dude, even better than that was the absolute just reveling in the booze going into the locker room at the first half. Dudes, Western Kentucky players going into the tunnel, just hyping it up. No, but I mean, I think they were just like owning the villain card, dude. They weren't taking a knee. They weren't taking their helmets off. They were just, they just loving it. Boo it. Give us the booze. We're going to be the bad guys. We're not going to take a knee during injury timeouts. We're just going to go all out. Dr. Evil. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe people don't do the whole knee at an injury thing anymore. I don't know, dude. I'm a simple man from South Texas.
Believe in tradition.
But back in my day, and
we had manners. Right? Yeah, that's right. That's right. We said the Our Father before and after the game, and we Oh, dude, I put in a Catholic school, man. We would go beat another Catholic school 65-10, and we would all gather around and hold hands, say the Our Father. So stupid, bro. We'd be out here teabagging players after a sack, and then we would say Our Father together. This podcast has been off the rails, dude. Oh my God. Okay, I'm gonna do some Patreon shout outs. We'll take a Kubia break, and then we'll preview a struggling FIU football program. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys really need us to use the word struggling. I think you guys know at this point where they're at. Anyways, if you're not a Patreon subscriber, you should totally do it. I think the film breakdown we had this week was really, really good. We got great feedback. Our bonus episode last week was a UTSA NIL State of the Union kind of deal. A lot of people love that one. And when you sign up, you get access to all of our content, current and previous, and the archive as well. A little as $5 a month to get you access. We're gonna have another bonus episode this week. We're gonna do fall Olympic sports at UTSA. Nice. So we'll be talking basketball. We'll talk a little volleyball, soccer,
fall ball, baseball. We got some news coming out of practice there. Yeah, man.
Yep. So we got a lot to cover on that. We're going to do some quick hitters and get you guys caught up on what's going on with Roadrunner athletics outside of the gridiron. But as always, big thank you to our big money donors who support us each and every week as we keep this silly little podcast rolling. That includes Ben Tovar, Rick Cortez of Rowdy Road Grillers. And I got to pause here. The Rowdy Road Grillers Rowdy Road
Rowdy
Grillers.
Road Grillers. Oh my gosh. Tailgate of the
Dude, the
century
tailgate
out
was
there.
insane, dude.
Bro,
It was crazy.
Red Bull Racing was there with an F1 car. Dudes were changing tires. Apparently, Red Bull Racing has never even been at a tailgate before. I was like, how'd you do that?
That's
Dude,
crazy.
It was a whole scene out there, bro. It was a whole vibe, bro.
I took my fiance to the game with me, and we wanted to walk around the tailgate lots and kind of see the scene a little bit. And we walked through the Rowdy Road Grillers tailgate, and my fiance goes, "Wow, there's a lot of tailgate sucios out here."
Tailgate sucios. Hey, boy, you bring out that free Devil's whiskey, bro. That devil gonna come out. You know what I'm saying? And dude. Bro, like I love that 5 p.m. kickoff because we got to walk around the tailgate lots. Me and my boys went to lot B, did our whole loop, did lot C, whole loop. I got a paleta from the paletero man right there on the bike in lot C, dude. And like all 4 of us are cruising around, like eating our mango paletas with a beer in the other hand. It was a whole scene. You can only get it right there in lot C. The Union Pacific coming by, Devil's River whiskey, F1 car getting changed out. Dude, if you guys have never experienced a college football tailgate, UTSA is the place to go do it at.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, continuing with our Patreon shout-outs, big thank you to the Bunch family, to Zach Espedicueta, the San Antonio Podcast Network, and Brandon Padron, as well as our Board of Trustees members, Digi Teague, John Otwell, Lino Perez of Los Dos Rowdy Tailgating, Gary and Ruben representing the UTSA Bird Gang Tailgate, Ray Redding and Meet Me Apparel, Brian Grill and the Grill Realty Group, and Andy Elizalde and the Proficient Benefit Solutions business. So thank you guys all so much. We're going to get out here for a quick cumbia break. I feel like I'm losing my mind, so I need to recuperate a little bit before we get into this FIU preview. All right, Adrian, we are back. We are in the home stretch of this podcast. We had gone off the script a little bit so far in this podcast, but that's all right, man. We're going to have a great FIU preview, and we're going to get you guys out of here.
2-3 Florida International Panthers. It's been a rough season, man. They escape in overtime against Bryant by 1 point in the opening week. They get manhandled back-to-back weeks. First to Texas State in San Marcos, 41-12. Then in Western Kentucky, 73-0. They beat New Mexico State on the road before dropping one to UConn last Saturday. It's a really, really rough year for FIU, man.
I know Texas State just beat Appalachian State last week, but to see them beat another FBS program 41-12 after all they've been through,
nuts.
That's weird to see on paper.
It's nuts.
Yeah, man. The Panthers are in a bad spot. They are coming off the head coaching change. They are committing to youth, I would say.
Sure.
With the players they're choosing to play. You got to respect that. Mike McIntyre is definitely there for the long haul. And you don't take this job if you don't know that you're going to commit to a rebuild, right? Like, I know the game of college football has changed a little bit, and you can win quick with a bad team, but flipping the roster and the transfer portal and all that stuff, and that's all possible now. And we see teams do that, but FIU is kind of in a different spot than like your Nebraskas and Auburns of the world and stuff like that.
Sure.
Or even your Western Kentuckys, right? That have reloaded in the transfer portal.
And is the transfer portal route as sustainable as building it through recruiting and trying doing it the more long-term way in this new landscape? I know it's totally off-topic question, but is it sustainable? Because you see like what Jeff Traylor's doing. I mean, Jeff Traylor more or less, I guess he didn't have to rebuild because he had talent on the roster already, right? But Wilson didn't have the luxury of just being able to go to a transfer portal and just switch around and grab guys like that. But now in this day and age, is there one route that might be smarter for a program to do for if FIU did have some chips on the table to go to the transfer portal and hit it hard.
Yeah, I think they're going to be a good case study because I think like most teams that have had a full like tear it down to the studs type rebuild these past couple of years have gone heavy on the transfer portal.
Right.
And FIU has gotten guys out of the portal as well, but they are still really committed to high school recruiting and they really want to start to put their stamp on that, Miami recruiting scene.
In Florida. That's right. That's South Florida talent bed. Yeah.
Right. So if Mike McIntyre could pull this off and he can get FIU back to consistent bowl games, I think that's a pretty good indication that, maybe people are too quick to reach for the portal to try to build their teams around that when they're entering into a rebuild kind of scenario.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm super interested to see long term. Obviously, they're not going to turn it around this year. Roster is still in bad shape. But, if, like we're going to talk about the quarterback just a minute, they got a sophomore starting quarterback, right? You get 3 or 4 more years out of him. You build around that guy.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And there's something to be said about the sustainability of that. And then how much are you going to have a flash in the pan by going off transfer portal? Is that going to be 1 or 2 seasons of success? Well, Western Kentucky's been able to sort of pivot off of it. Right. But is that going to be the case with every single team? Probably not. It's going to be hard to sustain going that route. Right. When you have a guy, look at what UTSA has had with Frank Harris. And, Frank Harris is probably a bit better than sophomore Grayson James whenever he was a sophomore at UTSA, but he had his issues, man. He had a lot of things that he needed to improve on. He was a very raw quarterback that needed a hell of a lot of molding. And over those 3 years, he got it, man. And now he's a stud, one of the best in the league, one of the best in the country. So, yeah, there's a lot to say to it. So, Grayson James, sophomore quarterback.
Yeah, let's get right into it.
7 touchdowns, 4 interceptions.
I think he won a state championship at Duncanville, right? But, coming from Duncanville, you already know the guy won a hell of a lot of football games through his high school career.
Knows how to win. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm skimming his bio real quick. He lost the 6A state championship to South Lake Carroll.
What a stud.
Yeah. Wow, this guy's a lot bigger than I thought he was. He's 6'3", 235. On film, he looked kind of tiny. I thought he was like a 5'9" guy, and that's why he ended up at FIU. Coming out of Duncanville as a state runner-up. That kind of shocked me to see that he's 6'3". Anyways, Grayson James beat out a former starter Duke quarterback, Gunnar Holmberg, to get this job. I'm sure some of that is McIntyre wanting a guy that's going to be there for a couple of years so he can build around. But if Grayson James wasn't ready to play, I don't think he would have him out there, right? If he had a guy that he felt could put their team in position to win games and kind of build from wins instead of experience, I think Holmberg would have been the guy. So cool to see James get out there and, kind of start to make his mark. You can still tell he's still kind of trying to learn how to be a Division I starting quarterback. He had some throws. Again, I'm not going to lie to you guys and act like I've watched a ton of FIU football this year. But he had a couple of throws against UConn. They're just like, man, you could have got away with that pass at the high school level, but you cannot get away with it. Even playing against UConn, right?
Right. Yeah.
These guys are different at this level, right? So I think he's still kind of making that adjustment. But I do think he's a guy that they can build around. I think he's athletic enough to make some plays against his UTSA defense. He has 7 touchdowns on the year to 4 interceptions and a 62% completion percentage. So he's taking his lumps for sure, but I wouldn't say it's been a bad season for him given his relative youth.
Yeah, and I think they've kind of known that they've wanted him to be the guy because they went right through that redshirt last season. He saw action in 6 games, and sure, you're getting blown out against FAU or Western Kentucky. He gets to get in there and actually throw the ball a little bit rather than just on the very last series. But I think they've had the intention of sort of aligning this offense behind Grayson James since last year, right? And so, no, he's still very raw, but the dude's got talent. And yeah, he's sizable. That's interesting. 6'3", huh? Wow. So target-wise, when it comes for Grayson James throwing the ball, who's he throwing the ball to?
Oh, that's an easy answer. That's Tyrese Chambers. The guy that I think people forgot. UTSA, I think, had him committed, or he wanted to commit to UTSA, and they kind of moved on from him.
I think he was committed for like a brief period, if I remember right.
A quick minute, right?
Yeah, shit feels like it. Tyrese Chambers all over the place, man.
Yeah, he's become a superstar, right? His numbers might be a little bit down this year, but last year he was one of the best receivers in the nation. He's got 262 receiving yards this year, 3 touchdowns. But his longest catch has only been 26 yards. He did go out with an injury against UConn. I think he got hurt like in the first quarter.
Yeah.
Didn't return to the game. So I'm not sure what it was. It was some kind of lower body injury. We'll see if he returns. It is a short week, of course, so that does kind of change things from a preparation and rehab and therapy kind of standpoint of getting healthy. Obviously, if Chambers is out, that's a huge, massive blow to this FIU offense because he's so instrumental in everything they do.
And yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you look at it, I mean, you look over, they really throw the ball to him a lot. 27 catches already on the season for him. And it looks like that's going to be by far the most volume than anybody else. I mean, the next best is going to be Jalen Bracy, junior wide receiver. He's got 17 receptions, 126 yards. That
guy does have some solid speed, though, because he had a touchdown catch against New Mexico State. I had to go look the number up on the FIU website because I was like, oh, man, that guy kind of took off on that one. UTSA has done a pretty good job this year against those kind of smaller, faster receivers, right? So I'm not super worried about Bracy, but it's clear if UTSA misses a tackle, that guy can take it to the house, right?
Right. Yeah. He's just quick. It's just
fast. In fact, he reminds me of that Western Kentucky receiver. I think Matheson was his name. He had a pretty good game against UTSA. He had that kickoff return that went pretty far. Very similar player in Jalen Bracy. I think Bracy's kind of like a little bit slighter than Matheson is, but same kind of speed and size.
And then they involve their tight end and their running back in the passing game a lot as well. So Josiah Meehan, sophomore tight end, he's got 13 receptions on the year. And so does EJ Wilson Jr., sophomore running back. Mm-hmm. And so is that more of like out of necessity? You know, you don't have wide receivers getting open. Maybe you got to dump down, keep it in between the sticks, get the yards that you can. I feel like we saw a lot of that style in the Frank Wilson days.
Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest with you. My Coach McIntyre is like a defensive guy. He was actually a defensive coordinator in Memphis. Yeah. UTSA played Memphis. David Yost is our offensive coordinator, he's an air raid guy, if I remember correctly. I want to say he was at Texas Tech for many years and ran the air raid there. He was at Utah State, ran the air raid there as well. So yeah, I'm not super certain if that is like their intended philosophy on offense, or they're just trying to make the most of what they have. But I can pretty safely say David Yost's offenses have typically been like 4 wide, 5 wide receiver, right? Spread it out, swinging around. Yeah.
Okay. So the win against New Mexico State, FIU's first FBS win in quite some time.
I want to say 2018.
Geez, that long?
It's been a long time. It was a road win too. So I feel like for it to be a road FBS win, man,
it's a big deal.
It goes way back. I don't know. I mean, I could try to scroll through because keep in mind they had a short COVID season as well. I don't think they finished that year or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I've unfortunately paid very little attention to FIU past couple of years. They did not have an FBS win in 2021. They only played 5 games in 2020, lost all of them. 2019. Oh yeah, they went 6-7 that year. Hell, they went to a bowl game. Hell, they beat Miami that year. So, okay. So let's put it that way. It's the first FBS win since they upset Miami in 2019.
Oh man, the fall from grace. That's crazy.
Damn, dude, that's wild. I don't understand how you can beat Miami, go to a bowl game, and then lose your next, what was it, 5, next 16 games in a row?
Jesus.
Jeez, dude. Wow. So earlier we mentioned that Tyrese Chambers might be out for this game, that he was out for, 75% of the game against UConn. Well, unfortunately for the Panthers, he's not the only key injury that they have had recently. Their starting safety, CJ Christian, was a pretty good JUCO transfer for them. Sophomore JUCO transfer stepped out in their starting role. He's out for the year. Big loss right there for sure, especially against UTSA's passing offense. But their offensive line is super banged up as well. They're having to move guys around. They've got a former walk-on playing a center now who I think forced a tackle, or I can't remember the order, but I think like they had to move a tackle to the interior to make room for another tackle. Redshirt freshman is starting a tackle. It's a big mess for them.
Sounds like our offensive line. Yeah.
But worse. You know?
Right.
Right. Yeah. So they're in a really bad spot injury wise, just like UTSA. When the line came out with UTSA being a 33-point favorite, I was like, man, there is no way UTSA covers that. Like, that's just not the way that UTSA plays ball to get, these huge leads and stick with them. Right.
Right.
But then I started, reading Eric Henry's updates in his FIU notebook with his amazing coverage of the FIU Panthers at Underdog Dynasty. And I was like, oh man, they're in a worse spot than UTSA when it comes to injuries. And they have certainly not recruited the way that UTSA has over the past 4 years. So their roster is really getting stretched thin.
Partly why their offensive line injuries are worse than ours is because they don't have the depth to be able to cycle guys out. Like at least, although, they might be walk-ons or underclassmen or what it is, but you at least have the personnel there on the UTSA side. So yeah, man, could be an Eddie Lee game. Could be an Eddie Lee second half. UTSA can get out there and get comfortable in the first half the way that we should, but short week, got to travel. We did okay whenever we went to Middle Tennessee on a short week. So let's see if we can do it again. More so
than ELM, man. I feel like you got to see some Ronnie Garza out there. You got to see some Ben Rios out there. You got to see some DeAndre Marshall out there. Got to have those guys ready to go.
What we wanted to see whenever we played TSU, that's now
we saw a lot less of than we should have seen.
Right. Yeah. So if hopefully you can.
I'm sorry, dude. Texas Southern's a better football team than FIU is right now.
Sure. So maybe there's an opportunity there for UTSA to get second, third string guys in the game in that third quarter for majority of the fourth quarter. Really play them out. Get your starters some rest. Got a long week before you got to play North Texas for homecoming and finally get a bye week.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, a long-time listener of the podcast know I always give every opponent a lot of respect because I know any team can beat anyone on any given Saturday. In this case, any given Friday. But FIU's in a bad spot. It's hard to imagine them putting up a big fight, man. They're in a bad spot. They're still 2 years away at minimum from being even to qualify for a bowl contender. The roster just needs a lot of work right now. So if UTSA doesn't breeze through this game, it's a big cause for concern for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well said. Yep.
So last week we had a former UTSA walk-on signee at quarterback as the offensive coordinator for the opposing team at Western Kentucky. This week we've got a former UTSA assistant coach as on the FIU coaching staff. I had no idea that Ricky Brumfield was the special teams coordinator.
Wow.
At FIU.
Wow. Holy cow. Blast from the past. Yeah. Wow.
Kind of a crazy coaching roster McIntyre's put together here with David Yost and Ricky Brumfield. I thought Brumfield was a great coach, man. I thought he was really underrated. He went to Virginia after UTSA, right?
Yeah.
I think he spent some time at Tulane. Yeah, he's had a nice little career.
Yeah, he was good, man. He was good for UTSA. That was 2016, right? Wilson's first year.
Yeah, I want to say he might have been at UTSA for 2 years.
Yeah, I think 16 and 17. Yeah,
he was a good one for sure. Another highlight from that early Wilson staff,
That was when Portillo was our punter.
I think Portillo was a kicker.
What was the damn punter's name?
No, it's blanking on me.
Yeah, I'm going through under Brumfield's watch, UTSA was just one of 3 programs that have both their punter and place kicker on the Ray Guy and Lou Groza Award semifinalist watch lists.
Oh, Yanni,
how dare us?
Please forgive us. Please forgive us, Mr. Roostus.
Oh man, dude. Yeah,
he recruited Jared Sackett to UTSA as well.
Put Portillo and Roostus on the fourth quarter golf cart. That's who we need to bring out, my boy. Oh, it'd be so lit, dude. Let's go. Come on.
Oh, that's too funny, dude.
Come on. For Hispanic Heritage Day, that would have been the ultimate, bro.
Oh, dude, one of my friends was joking around that they had Lucas Dean on the Hispanic Heritage game program. Like, of all the Hispanic players on the UTSA roster, and they picked Lucas Dean for it. Like, what was up with that freaking Australian guy?
Dean's white face, just oh man, with the Dia de los Muertos design like all over the flyer. Shout out to my boy Lucas, man. Yeah. So
earlier? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask you if UTSA covered the 32-point spread.
Well, before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about UTSA's health, because we mentioned it.
That's right. We skipped it at the end of WKU.
We mentioned the Western Kentucky recap. Mekhi Hart probably lost for the year. Poor guy played 6 plays against Houston and like 3 full quarters against Western Kentucky. Man, awful. Hated for the guy.
In his graduate season.
Yeah. He should get a medical red shirt, I think, if he wants it.
If he wants it, you can get it.
Yeah. Freaking Terrell Haynes went out. He was out for a while. Luke LePage came in and played well. And then Bentley Tadafou was out for a while as well. His injury looked really serious. I was surprised he came back into the game.
Yeah, because he was down for a while and he looked like he was in pain.
I think we'll see if they play Bentley or not. But I feel like on a normal season with a normal amount of health on your offensive line, you would precautionarily sit Bentley for FIU. Obviously, Frankie's going to take over for Hart again. So then who's going to be the other tackle if Tadafou can't play? Are you going to start Ben Rios as a true freshman?
Sure.
Are you going to move Ronnie Garza back to tackle and put him out there? Something to think about.
Because you're playing FIU, do you give that extra rest to Bentley if he's at 85%?
It's a tough decision to make, man. I think if it was me, like, of course, we don't know what's going on in the training room, but like, let's just use the scenario that you threw out where like Bentley's 85%, he can play.
Yep.
But you run the risk of re-entry, of course, if you're not 100%.
Look at what just happened to Mekhi.
I think I had to put him out there to start the game. You got to get confident. You got to get a 2-score lead, and you pull him out real quick.
Get him the hell out of there.
Real quick. Hell, maybe you rotate him in the first quarter even, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But on any other season,
control the volume.
I'm totally putting second string out there for FIU, but the health is so dire for UTSA right now.
You can't chance it,
man. Can't chance it. He's for sure got to travel with the team, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think he has to.
Assuming he's at least like 60, 70%. But there is a chance that Payne Hebert comes back, that Demetrius Allen is back. I think Coach Traylor did say both of those guys are close, that they're like day-to-day now. But then same scenario, dude. Are you going to rush them back a week early?
Right.
You're going to save them for UNT? It's tough, man.
Kind of brings me to my next question, Jared.
So,
whenever we had to play TSU, we were speculating and later proven right in Coach Traylor's post-game interview. Was he preparing for Middle Tennessee whenever we were playing Texas Southern? He was. North Texas just knocked off FAU 45-28, 3-3 on the season. Not the most impressive slate so far for North Texas, but they've
been up and down.
But it is North Texas. At the end of the day, it is Seth Luttrell in North Texas.
Jeff wants to beat Seth so bad this year. He's been losing sleep over this game for a year, brother.
Does UTSA put some North Texas game planning in against FIU? Are we preparing for UNT already, Jared?
I don't think you can do it in conference play.
Okay.
You can do it against TSU and get away with it, right?
Even against the 73-0 FIU Panthers.
But I don't know, like, what special game plan you need for North Texas, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
They don't do anything like that UTSA hasn't already seen from other teams this season. Middle Tennessee was different because they were an air raid team that doesn't run the ball, right? So like they had to get those dime packages ready. They had to get those light tackle boxes ready. And then we saw them use it against Middle Tennessee and against Western Kentucky, right? So it made total sense, right? And thankfully, UTSA was able to get away with it with a win, right? But man, rolling the dice like that in a conference game where like an upset obviously is very embarrassing. But it can also like remove your chance of getting to a conference championship game and hosting a conference championship game in the Alma Dome again. You can't risk it like that anymore, I don't think. And I don't even really know like what game plan you could roll out against FIU in preparation for North Texas. I don't know how much it would carry over. They do run a three-man front on defense, just like North Texas does. Wait, no, North Texas went back to 4-2-5.
4-2-5.
Yeah.
So the best prep you could do for North Texas is get out to a big lead, get your starters on the damn bench, pull them out of there, and get them some rest, that extra day of rest. No one's going to Hills and Dales on Saturday. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Oh my God. Adrian's Hills and Dales. Jeez.
Dude. So, okay. Friday night, FIU, you get through that one, and then you got real big one against North Texas the following week that, Jeff Traylor certainly had circled. And then finally a bye week in week 9, which Traylor was talking about 2 weeks in a row, week 9, 2 years in a row, week 9 bye weeks. Real tough luck to draw there for UTSA.
And UNT is one of the most physical teams on the slate too, right? So, they're going to hit hard. It's going to be a really competitive game. They run the ball a lot. It's going to be a tough final stretch to get to that bye week.
I hate UNT so much. I hate them.
Yeah. All right. Well, UT's going to cover 33 or not?
No. 48-14. Roadrunners.
Pretty dang close to what I was going to say. I'm going to go. I'm going to go 45-18. That seems right to me.
All right. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
I don't see a 72-0 scenario like Western Kentucky had.
Definitely not.
Like their whole system is built to run up the score and like look really good against bad teams. UTSA is not so much.
I think you nailed it. I think you nailed it earlier when you said it in passing that UTSA can't run up scores like that because we play the entire roster. We don't just keep our ones out there to just keep scoring and playing our best version of football. We're really spreading those snaps around.
Yeah.
So you're just not going to get it.
Yeah, dude, go look at how many guys got snaps on defense against Western Kentucky in a 3-point game against the defending conference runner-up.
Mm-hmm.
It's no joke, man. UTSA is really committed to playing a deep bench, right?
Yeah.
So you'll see that against FIU too, regardless of what the final score ends up being.
Mm-hmm. And I'd rather us play that deep bench and not have a 73-0 win against an FIU, but being able to play all 4 quarters against Western Kentucky and getting that win out, right? Having more horses than them at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So for sure.
Yep. Kickoff will be at 7:00 on Friday. CBS Sports, another national broadcast for the Roadrunners. Be sure to tune in and catch that.
Mm-hmm.
But
Friday night.
Roadrunners got a new quarterback commit.
Dude, like I'm just on Twitter today and all of a sudden TL is going crazy. TL is going bonkers, bro. And Jackson Gilkey, Ennis High School, 3-star, 6'2", 220 pounds, freaking horse.
Mm-hmm.
Jared, tell us about Jackson.
I don't know a whole lot about him. I know that UTSA had been recruiting for a while, but he wasn't really on my radar that much because UTSA had a quarterback commit, right? Mason Shorb. And I don't think he's decommitted yet, but taking another high school commit in the class kind of, I think, tells you where that's going to go.
Sure.
I don't know. I don't imagine them taking 2 high school quarterbacks. They might get a transfer as well and to pair them up like that. But, I think Gilkey had a much better offer sheet. He had offers from like a bunch of AAC schools. He's put up some really good numbers, 3-4-year starter for them, I think, at Ennis. Shorb's had a rough senior season, man. Like every time I look at his max preps, I'm like, oh gosh, dude, what happened? I don't know. I know he had an injury. I guess that was it.
Damn.
But yeah, I think Gilkey's certainly a step up from what we've seen from Shorb in his senior season. I haven't seen his, sophomore junior film, but from clips I've seen from his senior year, he throws a really good ball. He's got pretty good arm strength. Could throw some dimes, man. He's serious. And they do some design runs for him. For a big guy, 6'2", 220, he can move pretty well. I saw someone describe him as a bigger version of ELM. That's pretty spot on.
Okay.
Very similar. Yeah. And can I say this? It's nice to see the staff target the same kind of quarterback.
Yeah.
Right. Dude, Frank Wilson was just recruiting like wildly different quarterbacks.
Let me just get the best one I get my hands on. Yeah.
Coker did the same thing too. It was weird.
No familiarity.
I don't know how you build a system when your quarterbacks have such wildly different skill sets.
You can't.
Even like Diego Tello, he's the same kind of quarterback as ELM and Gilkey, right? And even Frank, right? I know they didn't recruit Frank, but
Wilson would get all these guys that would do different things and force them into his system anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this makes a lot more sense, right? You have that consistency. And so whenever you do have a little bit of turnaround, your offense doesn't have to take too many steps back, right? Plug and play.
Right. Yeah. 100%. So, same caveat I give for any high school quarterback, if he's playing early, it's probably a bad thing. There are two quarterbacks from the state of Texas that went out of state that I was high on. One of them went to Colorado State from Alito, like Brayson, Nikolai, something like that, or whatever. He had his first start for Colorado State. It went terribly bad. Like he just did not look ready to play, but that team's been awful this year. So sometimes you got to look at the freshmen to get a spark, right? So same deal, I wouldn't expect him to play early, but he shows some really good tools. He's got some good arm strength and have as many offers as he had from really good schools like Tulane, San Diego State. I'll throw Sam Houston out there. They recruit quarterbacks really well. Louisiana Tech, Incarnate Word, Houston Christian, also two guys that have put quarterbacks into the P5 and now the NFL and Bailey Zappi starting for the Patriots. He got an offer from Houston, from Arkansas State, right? So a lot of teams like what I saw from Gilkey. I've only seen like 4 minutes of his highlight film, and it's a lot of like, oh, this guy's open, I'm throwing a 10 for a touchdown kind of plays, right? So hopefully I can see like some full game film, because I mean that's really what tells you how good or bad a quarterback is. And I think like Shorb's junior film might have been better than what I've seen from Gilkey so far, but senior not so much. And I just watched not a full game, but like a condensed game for Shorb when they got upset by Lake Belton. And just didn't really have it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and they were both 6'3", but Gilkey's got about 30 pounds on Shorb.
Yeah.
That 205.
Yeah, Shorb's a lanky guy for sure.
I mean, like how beefy he is. I like how beefy he is. Overall thoughts on the way, and it can be just a little one sentence, but overall thoughts on the way the class is shaping out? The commitment list, I should say, at least.
It's good, but it probably needs to get a little bit better.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. Like, I think right now they're like in like the high 70s in recruiting rankings or something like that. But with how good UTSA has been the past 2 years, with their facilities now, feels fair to say, with Coach Taylor being locked up on a 10-year contract, with UTSA's NIL being pretty dang competitive, I think it's about time we start seeing some UTSA recruiting classes finish in the low 60s, right? So that's like you're beating out a lot of the bottom of the Power Five, and you're above pretty much all the G5. Like that's where Houston has been consistently. That's where Cincinnati has been consistently. Oh, Cincinnati's been higher than that. That's where UCF has been consistently. So that's where UTSA needs to get, right? And I think right now I really like the top half of this class. The bottom half is like good, not great, right? So
I got you.
Yeah. We just see Jalen Gardner decommit from UTSA. He's the one from TMI. It's not a guy you heard a lot about. You didn't see a lot of highlights from him. Just feels like UTSA can afford to aim a little bit higher with where their program's at right now. And I can't remember the name, but the receiver they have committed from Dallas, I think Jamal Hardy's his name. Oh boy, that guy is good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we need some more guys like that in other positions that are real difference makers. And there's plenty of time for Traylor and staff to lock up commitments from those kind of players.
Nice. Okay. Very good.
All
Keep
right.
posted with that recruiting.
Oh yeah, definitely. We'll have Javi on to do his customary recruiting class breakdown when the time comes.
Phenomenal.
All right, guys, long podcast this week. Thank you all for sticking with us. If you made it this far, much appreciated, much obliged. Like I said, we will have a bonus episode on Patreon this week where we'll break down some of the fall sports outside of football for the Roadrunners. So be sure to check in later this week to check that out if you're a Patreon subscriber, or sign up if you are not a Patreon subscriber. But thanks again. And be sure to subscribe to the podcast on your podcast platform of choice. Find us on social media, shoot us questions, suggestions, all that stuff. I know that we did get some submissions, but there was just too much to get to, so we couldn't get to some of them. But I promise we write them down. We'll try to get to them in the future. So keep on coming.